What's up, everybody? It's Keefy, and you're watching another GhostCultMag.com 5-minute review. That's right, it's the 5-minute review. Used to have a different opening for this. Already got some people watching. I appreciate you. Looks like we are live everywhere, but the tick of the talk. So let me quickly get over there and do this. But just a reminder, since 2012, GhostCultMag.com is your daily resource for music reviews, news, interviews, festival reviews all over the world, concerts, and so much more. And I'm here again with another live stream. We're trying to do more and more of these live streams. People seem to like them, so we're doing them. And today we're doing a 5-minute review of the brand new Black Dahlia Murder album, Servitude. This is an epic, huge release for the calendar this year. Huge release among all top-tier metal albums. Obviously, important because the band is important. And we're going to break it down in a second. I've had the pleasure of already hearing the record many times. We've already run our review, and we've already run our feature interview with Ryan Knight here on the channel. So when you're done watching this, jump over there and watch Ragin Rosie interview Ryan, who was fantastic. He's a really swell guy. We do interviews and live streams every week. We have our weekly show on Thursdays, in which we break down all the news and drama of the week. That people also seem to like that show as well. So I'm just trying to get this thing to cooperate here. Give me one more second, and I will get on to it. Maybe it'll cooperate. Maybe it won't. It might not. Well, we'll just upload the TikTok later. I'm not going to go live on TikTok today. Oh, maybe I can. Wait, one more second. Haha. I just figured something else out. Heyo. Let's see. Nope. No, not going to do it. All right. I've delayed long enough. I'm going to take a sip of my drink and move right on. Let us bring in the deck. Pa-pow. And that's the correct proportions. There we go. Made a little script to help me run the show as usual, as I like to do. And now we're going to do this thing. We're going to do this, Brutus. Thanks for everybody already watching. I appreciate you. Try to do this thing live and direct all the time. Sometimes the channels do not cooperate. Yeah, it looks like we're live everywhere else. All right. So, brand new Black Dahlia Murder. This review will probably be 10 minutes instead of 5, but we like to call it the 5-minute review. It's just what I like to do here. Servitude is the brand new album from the band. Obviously, any discussion of Black Dahlia Murder begins, of course, new album, beautiful artwork. It's very, haunting and creepy, with like a giant like a wormhole or a whirlpool sucking in everything into it. There's ships, there's demons, there's goblins, there's ghouls, there's swords. It's very metal. Black Dahlia Murder has been one of Metal Blade's pinnacle bands the entire way, as long as they've been on the label. And obviously any discussion begins and ends with Trevor Sternad. This is the first album for the Black Dahlia Murder without Trevor since he passed away a little over 2 years ago in 2022. It was a devastating loss. We were friends with Trevor here at Ghost Cult. He lived in Brooklyn for quite a time, and we were pretty close, had good relationships with him, saw him all the time, talked about metal. He was not just a great frontman of one of the most important bands in death metal, he was a tremendous advocate and uplifter of underground bands. He used his position and his notoriety to help support other bands, and we will probably never see the likes of him again. Honestly, other people may try, but I doubt we will see another quite like him. Here's just some fun and favorite photos of ours of Trevor from live concerts over the years. This is shot by Meg Loyal. Here's another Meg Loyal photo of Trevor. Meg Loyal photography. This one's a particular favorite of mine. I believe this is Originate Designs. Isabel is Cataguia, good friend of ours and a photographer for Ghost Cult. This one here is, I was at this show. This is the Paradise Rock Club in Boston, where I used to live at one point. And this photo is by the legendary Hillary Jason. You probably know her work from Maryland Death Fest and Decibel Magazine. Yeah, Trevor was fantastic. It's hard to go on. we're seeing kind of right now a big backlash in the music world about bands continuing on somehow controversially. Power Trip, Pantera, even Linkin Park. I didn't think I would mention Linkin Park in this Black Dahlia Murder review, but these are bands getting a lot of, have gotten a lot of criticism and heat. Less so Pantera now that it's been around for a few years, of continuing on without core members, we'll say, because obviously Pantera still has Philip. Linkin Park lost Chester. I think it speaks a lot to the respect people have for this band, how they've done this to come back, the decision to move forward, to keep it in-house with co-founding guitarist Brian Eschbach as now the lead vocalist. They performed a bunch. They did some exclusive shows to kind of start this return, and Brian has proved to be an excellent death metal vocalist, and we'll talk about his performance on this album and in general, how he works with the band. They brought back Ryan Knight into the band, who had been a long-serving member but had been out of the band for a long time, and now he's back. And this record was written by a core bunch of members, and then finished off. It's tough for a legacy band to keep trying to top themselves. This is a band that kept making better and better albums. There are people who will tell you they love their first few albums. There are people who will tell you their more recent albums were their favorite. But it's always difficult to move on when you lose a core member, especially someone so vital as Trevor. So I'm sure this was in their mind. And here's the present day band and the current press photo. And, they have done their thing coming back. It's bold. And they decided that it was, important for them to try to carry on without their friend, which has to be brutal. Everything you do, I think Servitude, the name, doesn't feel like a concept record, but clearly everything they do is going to be dedicated to Trevor and have an eye, on the future as well. But, clearly you'd have, how could it not be about Trevor? How could some of these songs not be about him? How could the experience of losing their best friend not mark this album? So we're going to discuss this quite in detail. I have a little notes here on the other screen. So the current lineup of the band, of course, is Brian on vocals, as I mentioned. Max Lavelle, longtime bassist. He's been in the band for 12 years, one of the longest running members. Alan Cassidy has also been in the band about the same amount of time. There was a period of time where Black Dahlia had sort of revolving door drummers. Alan has held it down. You'll hear me gush about Alan in a second. Brandon Ellis on lead guitar, longtime lead guitarist since 2016. Brandon has been crucial to this process, co-wrote most of the album with Brian and Ryan, and of course Ryan on rhythm and backing vocals. Has been back since 2022, since they decided to, he came back in the band, and he was again previously in the band from 2009 to 2016, a very crucial period of time for the band. So he's, it feels like, except for Trevor, it feels like a classic-ish lineup to the band. I know it's hard to say without Trevor. It's not the same. And like I said, drop a comment and let us know how you feel about bands coming on without their, maybe crucial members or core members or former lead vocalists. It's very hard. Very few bands have ever been successful at replacing lead vocalists. Moving on to the review itself. So let's break down the record and talk all about it. Looks like we're going to go over 10 here. My predictions are usually not good. We used to do these, edit them up live and stuff like that. Maybe we will again someday. So the album, I have extensive notes. The album kicks off with the opening track, Every Evening Ephemeral, which is a bit of a average track for the album, about 4 minutes. The opening of the record is this very eerie, clean pick guitar that almost sounds like a horror movie theme, like right before someone gets killed. Very apropos for this band. It's an absolute authoritative banger, though, because within 30 seconds of that guitar intro, it abruptly changes to this chaotic, beautiful, technical death metal. The album announces itself, like, we're back and here we are. And, it's kind of like an air peeler. It's kind of what you needed to hear to open this album up. It's so sick as a track, like just absolute chaos, but in the best possible way. And just we'll just talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Brian, if you haven't seen videos of Brian do the classic material or heard these current singles or heard the tracks leading up to the album or seen the music videos, Brian is not Trevor, and he's not trying to be Trevor. He's just trying to be a great death metal vocalist. Obviously, on the classic Black Dahlia Murder material, Brian is covering Trevor's parts, and he does an exceptional job. He's singing as if Trevor would. But actually, on this new material, he's really finding his own voice and how that fits in with Black Dahlia. You're used to hearing Trevor. So obviously, it's different. It's a different vocalist. He's got different flavors to his voice. There's things he's trying to do that Trevor did incredibly well. There's things he's doing on his own. Across the board, Brian straight kills it on this record, and I'm just so proud of him. You could not have predicted a better performance from him on this record. Also, there's some just killer old school death metal, technical death metal, classic sounding guitar work. The guitar stuff on this album is just an orgy of great guitar work, but there's a really cool kind of skipping, descending riff on Evening Ephemeral. Kind of reminds me a little bit of early Morbid Angel or Suffo. People know what a big Suffocation fan I am. So high praise for this opening track. Second track, Panic Hysteric, is a little shorter and a little more thrashy death metal. And again, just crazy tempos. And again, I said I was going to gush about Alan Cassidy, and his drumming on this whole album, as well as this track, is spectacular. It's really one of the best drum performances of the year. And that's really saying something in a year with just countless great drum performances. What up, Brooklyn Miss? What up, Scooter? I'm just doing a quick rundown, a quick review of the Black Dahlia Murder brand new album. I've gotten to hear it, and we're just running through the tracks right now. We're on track 2. And yeah, just dizzying riffs. I think there's a lot of material on this album that is going to remind you of classic, all the influences of Black Dahlia: brutal technical death metal, blackened death metal, melodic Swedish 90s classic melodic death metal, like Carcass and At the Gates kind of worship, but also their own way. And again, you're talking about some of the best guitarists, including Brian, who still writes songs for the band, even though he's not playing guitar live, obviously. He's still a core writer of this band. He's been on every album. As San Francisco's going to San Francisco while I do my thing here in the studio. Haha. So Aftermath is the third song, one of the top songs on the album, probably one of my top 3 songs on the whole album. It starts with the very ominous, like thunderstorm, almost like a pre-tornado, like almost a sonic boom of a thunder. And then it just blasts into this beautiful progressive death metal song. It almost felt like a later era death or Control Denied, like what Chuck was trying to do musically, like just very complex stuff, while Brian just wails over this. I kind of wish I had a lyric sheet to understand what some of these things are about. Like I said, it doesn't quite feel like a concept record, but how can you not interpret some of these songs and some of the pain and anguish of these songs? Clearly, Brian is channeling about their loss of their friend. And there's just probably my favorite guitar solo on the record is on Aftermath. And that's Brandon, and it's just like I would call it like a lyrical guitar solo, almost like something Dimebag Darrell used to do, or some of Phil Demmel, some of your best lead players in the genre. Just absolutely killer. The fourth track on the record is Cursed Creator, and my notes say unrelenting riffs for headbangers and moshers. So this is going to be your circle pit song in the show. This is going to be your nonstop swivel neck, bobblehead, hurt yourself. It's just such a fun song. I think that's the thing that I love about Black Dahlia Murder is they always had the most fun songs. And this is like a lot of very cool time signature changes. And, it's not like braggadocious to say that this is one of the best bands in the genre. They always were one of the upper echelon bands. And it's just all their, whatever they've been saving up for this moment is here. There's just a lot of skill on display if you're into this genre. And Intermission is the fifth track. It's just a 30-second classical guitar doodle. It kind of ends very abruptly, but I wrote in my notes again, Diablo Immortal would be jealous of this musical interlude, and I think that's accurate. Does kind of remind me of Diablo Immortal. Moving on, Asserting Dominion is the sixth track on the album, and there's a very long, agonizing scream that Brian does to open the track that in my brain, I just shut my eyes and I listened to this thing on repeat for a while, this whole album. And I was like, Trevor would be proud of that scream. And it was like easily 8-9 measures of just a very that high pitched scream Trevor used to do, the black and death metal, the fry, right? The fry at the top, right? I can't do it, but it's just it just arrives with attention. Super breakneck fast, crazy beats per minute fast, great riffs, great drumming. Max Lavelle also doesn't get enough credit as one of the more unsung bassists in the genre. Obviously, to play technical death metal, you have to be able to riff along with either fingerstyle or pick. You have to be able to play along with some of these, 6-string acrobats, and Max holds it down. And that rhythm section doesn't roll correctly if you don't have a great bassist. So shout out to Max as well. The title track is Servitude. That is the 7th track of the album. It's super over the top, like most of this record. I'm fond of saying, the title track kind of usually lets you know what track it is. And you can see why they picked this one. It's got a little bit, one fist in the history of the band and a little bit of something new, I think. A lot of guitar nerd kids are going to hurt their fingers trying to play this stuff. This is very complex and technical from a guitar standpoint. And I'm sure there's going to be some playthrough videos of this whole album eventually. And, I'd be very curious to study these things and see what they're doing. Easily also one of the best vocal performances on the record, and just an absolute beast of a shredding guitar solo. Again, Brandon, tip of the hat there to Brandon. Just a sick job. 8th track is The Mammoth's Hand. There's a very cool lyric video out for this right now, inspired apparently by Don Coscarelli's 1982 movie The Beastmaster. It almost could be, if you put like singing on this instead of black and death metal, this would be almost a Mastodon song. Kind of has that dissonant Mastodon layered guitar quality that I really like a lot in my progressive metal. But it's more or less a classic Black Dahlia Murder track. It does have like a very mid-tempo choppy rhythm that I'm also fond of, that the band used to lean into these OSDM motifs and then back to the fast part again. So just absolutely killer. This next track's pretty interesting. Transcosmic Blueprint. It's kind of funny that we're getting into kind of a period of time when a lot of bands have come in the wake of bands like Black Dahlia Murder, as Black Dahlia Murder had come in the wake of At the Gates and Carcass and bands like that they love. And I think it's interesting that like we are in the time of like Blood Incantation and Mammoth Grinder and different bands. And so, Transcosmic Blueprint sounds like it could be a Blood Incantation track as a title, but also it is a bonkers track. It is just banana balls musically. Again, a lot of this stuff even defies description, so hopefully I'm not repeating myself too bad. What's up, Jared86 on YouTube? Thanks for your comment. I agree, it is killer. And it also has kind of like a little bit of a thrash groove to it too, which, there's a handful of bands that kind of do this style. Black Dahlia hasn't leaned into this too much, but it'd be fun to see them kind of explore this more in the future, where you do like the very, very, the supremely technical, busy, chaotic technical black and death metal sounds great, but mixing it up with different moods and flavors, like some just straight up thrash parts musically, without going all the way into just straight thrash, I think is fun. We're not talking about like crossover. We're talking about like Exodus and Overkill, right? And Flotsam and Jetsam. And then the final track on the album is Utopia Black. And this is another black and death metal. It's very bleak. It's very bleak feeling. And there's another just a ridiculous high-pitched just screech from Brian Eschbach on the vocals. And just his lows are so low, and he's showing a lot of range, and he's trying to be his own person as much as he is the singer of Black Dahlia Murder. And he's got to play those classic tracks we all love, Horrible Night for a Curse and Statutory Ape. He still needs to deliver new material, and he's surely trying to like carve his own place in the, in their history, which I really appreciate that. It's an absolute banger of a record. Oh, I didn't really like follow along these cue cards, did I? I just read through my notes. And here's a quote from our review, and actually I'm just going to blow this up so people can see it for a second. Complex, melodic, and full of venomous fury. If Servitude proves one thing, it is that the Black Dahlia Murder choosing to keep things in-house has been absolutely the right move, and that is from our review by our own Gary Alcock. He reviewed this. We ran it last week. You'll see it linked in the description if you want to read a fully written, in-depth review. And we gave it a 9, and I backed that very strongly. One of the top tier albums of the entire year. We give very few 9s and 10s out as a rule, as a website. I know a lot of people don't do grades anymore, and a lot of people do weird 8.3, and I don't know how they got to that 8.3, but I feel like a 10 scale is still pretty obvious. And if we're giving something a 9 out of 10, obviously, you can trust it. Just to flip back to me for a second. And that's, yeah, look at that. I did it right for a change. And yeah, just a fantastic review by Gary, who has written some of our biggest and best reviews of the year. Obviously, because it's Metal Blade, there's all kinds of crazy merch. Joaquin Carcass is here also. They have insane, Black Dahlia Murder always had the greatest shirt game. And obviously, there's a lot of merch options and bundle options if you're interested as a collector and a fan. And here's one more photo of the band. Again, I know for some people, they're just not going to be into it because it's just Trevor's too hard to replace and he was too beloved and he was too iconic. But I have a lot of respect for a band trying to do this thing and, kind of battle back basically against this adversity, the brutal loss of their friend, their beloved friend and brother, and to carry on as a band. It's so hard in general just to do the music industry and then, to have a terrible loss in your life like this. So really absolute respect. Like I said, other bands are not getting that level of respect back for whatever reason that Black Dahlia has been accepted as being allowed to continue on with Brian as the vocalist. So that is our 5-minute review of Servitude by the Black Dahlia Murder. Again, a straight banger, 9 out of 10. Clearly going to be in contention for the album of the year. Our voting is coming up soon with our entire global staff. We'll bring you that. We're going to bring you more 5-minute reviews, and not really 5, but we're going to bring you more reviews and news and all the things and interviews and everything here at the channel. Thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody. Be safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.